Hello there guys, you're listening to Ebird Online and I'm back with another review. I'm quite excited for this episode, for today's the big day. It's the day that we meet Ryan. And so ladies and gentlemen, I present to you a millennial dating a moronial, Stephanie and Ryan. And guys, I've got to give you a trigger warning. There's a swindling and duplicitous little prat in this episode. Right before we start, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's subscribed. I feel like we're really building this channel now, and thank you to all of you guys for your comments. But if you haven't done so yet, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and make eBird a very happy eBird. And if you enjoy my review today, please don't forget to smash the like button. Right, so without further ado, I give you Stephanie and Ryan. So when we first see Stephanie this episode, she's busy packing. Finally the Belizean government have seen fit to open the borders, and she's able to go and see lover Ryan. And Stephanie tells us, "I'm going to Belize to see my 27-year-old lover Ryan, and I really hope he likes all the watches and all the presents I bought him." Stephanie, he told you just last week he doesn't care about the gifts that you buy him. He's really not interested. But Stephanie tells us one of the watches that she's bought for Ryan is $3,000. Just wow, $3,000 on a random gift. And I do hope that Ryan's appreciative. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And Stephanie is literally packing her bag with 12 tops for Ryan, shirts and shorts, absolutely loads of presents. Remember guys, these are all the presents that Ryan doesn't really ask for, or doesn't really want, and doesn't really care about. Stephanie says she hopes they can work things out, and that they've really had a bad 10 months, and that's because of the long distance. Is it really? I think it's because both of you have a very bad attitude. And Stephanie's cat's watching her pack. And the cat has a look that says, "I can't wait for the peace and quiet. I wonder who's going to spoon feed him luxury yogurt when she's gone." And you can see Steph really loves her cat. And I was thinking, maybe that's why she likes Ryan. Cats very rarely listen to you. They don't come in when you call, and they like to stay out all night. They're very independent, and they like to do what they like, when they like. They won't be told what to do, and they've got an inflated sense of self. Each and every cat thinks they're the most beautiful cat that God put breath into. Every quality that's in a cat, I think Stephanie has in Ryan. And the next time we see her, she's on the flight and she's just about to arrive in Belize to see Ryan. And when she touches down, Ryan's waiting at the airport with a balloon and a bunch of petrol station flowers. They grab each other and hug each other, and they spin round for what seems like an eternity. Later, Ryan tells production, "I was 23 and a half when I met Stephanie," and this tells me an awful lot about their relationship. Ryan said, "I was 23 and a half. Who gives half ages? Children. I'm 7 and a half. I'm 10 and a half. When's the last time you heard an adult describe themselves as something and a half? When they're trying to make themselves sound older, that's when." And Stephanie tells production, "Maybe this trip's going to be fantastic. Maybe love can conquer all." Maybe it can, Stephanie, but first we'll have to find a couple in love. And Stephanie and Ryan go to their apartment, which incidentally is absolutely beautiful. And Stephanie unpacks, and she says to Ryan, "I've got loads and loads of presents for you." And Ryan tells us Stephanie has great taste. "I don't even have to really tell her what I want." And Stephanie starts unpacking, and she has 12 shirts, she has flip-flops, and she has shorts and watches and headgear, everything. And then she presents him with the pièce de résistance, the $3,000 watch. And I have to admit, Ryan's little eyes lit up, and he told production that although he likes the gifts, he'd rather just have the money. What a lovely sentiment. And Stephanie, for her part, actually told him, "Yes, this watch is $3,000. Be very careful with it, because I know you like to lose a lot of things." Lose a lot of things? Does he? On that tiny little island? And I think we're going to have to play a little game called Alarm Bells, and that is alarm bell number 1. Good Lord, Stephanie, Ryan doesn't lose things. Ryan is selling them, and it wouldn't surprise me if he's selling them on the street for a player's price. He's not going to be getting the full value of the items that you are buying, and he is then selling on. Guys, please let me know in comments below if I'm just super suspicious. I think he's running his own unofficial pawn shop. And then Stephanie produces from her bag 6 months worth of condoms. And she explains that she and Ryan will use these condoms in just 10 days. And Ryan tells us, "I've got an awful lot of stamina. Ryan, you're 23. I'd be worried for you if you didn't." And he continues, "I like to do it 4 times a night." She's a little bit overage, but she managed to keep up. Far too much information. The only bit of information that I'm interested in is this. if you're so highly sexed, Ryan, how have you kept yourself to yourself in the 10 months that you haven't seen Stephanie? I'd be very, very interested to know. And then they sit on the edge of the bed and they talk about the state of their relationship. And Ryan points out, we never quarrel when we're face to face, it's just when we're long distance. And I'm here to make amends. Stephanie looks unimpressed and she says, but Ryan, tell me what's changed. And he looked at her a little cluelessly and then she said, I think I want to see your phone. Bring your phone over here now. And Ryan said, but why? We know why, Ryan. She wants to see which girls you've been texting this time. And Stephanie said, I'm just curious. And I know all of you guys think if you've got to search a person's phone, then your relationship's over. But I'm a very big believer in sometimes if you have a suspicion, you need to get evidence to back up that suspicion. However, the way not to do this is to say to somebody when they're expecting it, can I see your phone please? It not only undermines your relationship, it also achieves nothing. But what happened next I think was very reminiscent of Ariella and Binyam. Remember when Ariella said, let me have a look at your phone? And Binyam took the phone and started deleting things quickly before he passed it over. Well, Ryan wasn't quite that bad, but he took the phone, tilted it at a 45-degree angle away from Stephanie, quickly checked that it had no recent text, put in his little code, and then handed the phone over to Stephanie. And just that moment of furtive behaviour tells me, Ryan, you do have something to hide. And then Stephanie scrolls through the phone, and then she said, who's Kayla SC? And Ryan looked like a deer caught in the headlights. He said, that's my cousin on my dad's side. And it sounded for all the world like a lie. His body language kind of told me he wasn't telling the truth. The fact that he had to wait a little while and think, who's Kayla SC? If it's your cousin, you know that. So that was a little weird, but I think it's the fact that he said, on my dad's side. Now, when we see the photos of his whole family, we only see his mum and all his siblings. There's no dad in sight. I think his mum and dad have split up. And if Stephanie hasn't met his dad or doesn't really know that side of the family, it's easy for him to say, yeah, that's my cousin, on my dad's side. And that's a reason why she'll never have to really be referred to again. Just a theory, but I think there might well be something in it. His reaction to that question, if nothing else, was certainly an alarm bell. Or maybe the Ebird's just got an overactive imagination. Could be either. So Stephanie finishes rooting through his phone, and Stephanie says that she feels so much better now that she's able to look through his phone and there's nothing for her to see. And Ryan tells Stephanie, I want a fresh start and I want to prove to you that I'm honest, so you can look through my phone at any time you want. And the final time we see this couple this week, they're going out for dinner. And Stephanie's getting all dressed up in a lovely coral coloured dress. I gotta say, Stephanie has got some nice clothes, very nice clothes in fact. I'm not too sure about her footwear, but yeah, the clothes are there. Oh Stephanie, did Cinderella not prove to you that shoes are a game changer? These are not the one, but I digress. They sit down at a restaurant and they order margaritas. And Ryan decides he's going to eat the lobster. No expense spared. Stephanie says, thanks so much for letting me see the phone earlier. Did you figure that I'd asked to see your phone? And there was a very pregnant pause. And Ryan looked left and right. And then he said, no. And Stephanie, for once very wisely, said nothing. Because as we all know, the guilty fill the silence. And then Ryan said, yeah, I thought, oh great, she's not worried about all that phone shit anymore, thank God. But then Stephanie said, well, Ryan, if that's always my question, why would you think that I wasn't going to ask? And Ryan said, yeah, God, you're always on about the phone this, the phone that, it's your number one topic. You never shut up about the phone. And Stephanie said, yeah, so why did you think that I wouldn't ask about the phone then? And then Ryan said, it wasn't on my mind. All that was on my mind was that you land in Belize safely. What? Oh God. Ryan, do you think everybody's just rained down in the last shower? You should have just said to her, yeah, I did think that you might ask to see my phone. Just make sure it's at least a likely narrative. First you say, no, I never thought you'd ask to see my phone. And then you say, yeah, God, yeah, you always ask about the phone, number one topic. Ryan, which is it? Oh, good Lord, guys. Ryan is not so bright, is he? And the whole time he's going back and forth and saying this, that and the other. Stephanie's just looking at him as if to say, you absolute clown. But then, in a clown move all of her own, Stephanie tells production later, Ryan can be very, very convincing. No, he can't. Who's he convincing? He couldn't even convince my 5-year-old nephew. Theo, are you convinced? No, he says no, he's not. He also says he thinks Ryan's a rubbish liar. And do you know what? I agree with him. He doesn't convince me that he's in love with you. He doesn't convince me that he doesn't want all of these presents. And nor does he convince me that he's grateful for the presents. He doesn't convince me that he wants to turn over a new leaf. He's one of the worst liars known to 90 Day Fiancé. And that's quite some statement. But I gotta admit, Stephanie is low-key boring about this phone scenario. If these guys stay together, this will never ever end. The year is 2052. Stephanie is on her deathbed. Ryan manages to smirk through his tears. And Stephanie musters all her strength to raise a weary arm. Ryan, I want to look through your phone. Ryan, this is never going to end. And back at the meal, Ryan's proving just how much he loves Stephanie. The food came over and he said, wait, I just want to take one picture. He stops and takes a picture of his food. Oh Lord, these kids, they always have to gram their food. One would imagine somebody so in love would want to take a picture of Stephanie, but no. And Stephanie said, well, I don't want to argue. And Ryan's saying, we're not arguing, we're just discussing. This is true, Ryan, but the only reason you're not arguing is because Stephanie's choosing not to pull you up on your egregious lies. And then Stephanie rattles on about the K1 visa and it's so stressful not knowing when I'll see you next. And Ryan more or less said whatever will be will be. And to be fair, even though this is quite uncaring the way he says it, it's true. You can't alter what's happening with this worldwide pandemic, so there's no point stressing out over it. And then Ryan said to Stephanie, stick with me. I can guarantee you one thing, I will get to America. If there's one thing you can guarantee, it's that I'll make it to the US. Ryan, you'll only make it on Stephanie's dime. Let's be clear about that. Stephanie went from hula hoop to cock-a-hoop. She said to production, there we go, there you see it, that's the man I fell in love with. No, that's the little rat-like grifter you fell in love with, Stephanie. He acts like a cat, but he looks like a rat. And then Stephanie starts fishing in her bag. Stephanie, no, don't do it. Too late, she's done it. She hands him her mother's engagement ring. Stephanie, if you're going to give him that, put it on a piece of elastic and stitch the other end of the elastic into his pocket. And in a roundabout way, she more or less says, here's the ring that I want you to propose to me with. And I'm waiting for you to do that. But I knew it was coming. I just didn't think it would be so goddamn obvious. Ryan starts looking at the ring extremely closely. Far too closely for the Ebird's liking. Let's all have a listen to Ryan's inner monologue. It looks like it's rose gold, and the stone looks about 14k. The setting is exquisite. It seems like a decoloured diamond, and the claret is excellent. The colours are really high. It's a beautiful classic setting. I do need to get this weighed. Guys, Ryan was full on appraising that ring. He did everything bar taking his loop magnifier out to get a closer look. And after a 5-minute appraisal, he tells Stephanie that he may propose to her when the time is right. Oh, good Lord. And we end this week with Stephanie saying she's still really guilty about the whole Harris affair and she'd like to tell Ryan, but only when the time is right. Stephanie, the time will never ever be right. This is an explosion waiting to happen. And that's where we end things for this week. So guys, I gotta tell you, the Ebird's very worried that Ryan's going to somehow lose this engagement ring. God knows how much it costs, but I think to Stephanie it wouldn't be the cost, it's the sentimental value. Why ever would you give it to somebody who you both know loses things? Now I've seen them both together, I realise this relationship is a car crash. And you guys don't really seem to think much of this relationship either. USN Melanie Doria says she's a textbook control freak and that's why she's with this younger guy. She doesn't want a mate, she wants a child and she wants someone to depend on her and make her feel good about herself, and I couldn't agree any more. I mean, there's buying gifts and there's buying gifts. Who would need to buy somebody 10 or 12 watches? It belies any logic whatsoever. If you're just giving him watches so he can sell them on, don't bring watches, just wire him the money. But one of my favourite comments from last week is from someone called Marlene Bryant. Marlene says, you notice that people that have a rescue dog always make sure to tell you it's a rescue. Why? He's her rescue in her mind. And I think that's absolutely true. She always tells us how much money she gives. She told us this week explicitly how many shirts, how many pairs of shorts, and how many watches she'd bought him. Some of them she actually gave us the dollar value of. Why so much detail? Because you're trying to prove to us all how much you're doing for Ryan. Really, Stephanie, you're doing it for yourself. You're trying to purchase him. But you're trying to purchase someone who's completely unappreciative and who's actually got quite a vindictive and quite a tricksy little mind. And what about Ryan? Well, alarm bell city. And the first one, of course, is that he loses items, i.e. he sells them on the street for a player's price. The second alarm bell was that Stephanie said he's really appreciative for everything that I buy him. No, he isn't. He said just last week, I don't ask you to buy those things. And then this week he said he'd rather have cash than the gifts. He's an ungrateful ingrate. The third alarm bell is the fact that he lied about the phone. Maybe he hasn't been contacting other women, but it's very strange to me that he would tilt his phone at a strange angle before he let Stephanie see. And then also he lied and said he didn't think that she was going to ask to see his phone. And it was clear to anybody with a pair of eyes that that was absolutely not true. In another alarm bell he said, I really want to get to the USA and I just want to see what it's like in America. He didn't mention one bit about wanting to be with Stephanie. And even when Stephanie actually asked Ryan what's changed in our relationship, he said, I keep singing into your ears that I want to be with you, that I want you in my life. Of course you do. She gives you 3 grand watches. The truth be told, I'd like Stephanie in my life too. Ryan is just rotten to the core. I know I said before he's a grifter, but I think it goes a little bit deeper than that. I think he's an out and out thief. I actually don't think that he likes Stephanie even a bit. And I know we've talked before about people wanting to get to the US, but some people want to get to the US, I admit. You know, for instance, like Yara, but I think she also does love Jovi as well. But I don't think the same is true of Ryan. You could see in his face from the phone call of last week that Ryan barely tolerates Stephanie. And let's not forget, he's got one sweet plan. We haven't forgotten about that, Ryan. And Stephanie, you're low-key stupid for your pick of Ryan. His pictures don't do him justice. He actually, in real life, doesn't look that great. Stephanie, you had the opportunity to snag yourself a sexy, beach-loving dreadlock firecracker to take with you as a little companion to the US. Instead, you end up with Rat Boy. From what I can see, and fair enough, we have only seen photos thus far, but Harris is far better looking than Ryan. And you want Ryan to propose to you? Really? Ryan wants to propose that you give him all your money and F off. So guys, let me know what you think about Ryan. Is he just a common garden grifter, or is there something slightly more sinister about him? Well, that's about everything from me. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and all that good stuff if you've enjoyed the video, and I'll be back very soon with another video. You've been listening to Ebird Online. I bid you all good day.